the system. And my name is Lucia Fraga, and I will coordinate today the presentations of this meeting room. We are going to tackle the blue skills, focusing on sustainable ship and boat building in the Adriatic and Ionian region. And the idea is to present how skill requirements in the blue economy will widely change in the future as a result of these emerging trends, such as digitalization and the need to keep the industry greener. So you are now seeing a short video presentation from me. Thank you very much to the technical support. As you can see, I come from Spain, from the Technology Center of the Sea named CETMAR, and we are developing projects to promote the blue skills and the ocean literacy in the department I direct. In particular, since the last 3 years, we are coordinating the MATES project, which is a blueprint project funded by the Erasmus Plus program to promote a skilling strategy in the maritime technologies. So as I was presenting you the session today, will address these new needs emerging in the waterborne industry area. And to frame the session, we will present some of the results that we have gathered with this MATES project in the region of the Adriatic and Ionian. We will have then, after this short presentation of facts and figures, we will pass the floor to the representatives of the industry and the main training providers in the region in order to have a debate about the outcomes and the insights that have been gathered so far in the region. So please go back to the presenter as I will present my colleague Eleftherios Doukopoulos, who is participating in the CETMAR project, representing the third HIT Research Institute, which is the Hellenic Institute of Transport and Center of Research and Technology, HELLAS. He is actively engaged in relevant research projects in the field of the maritime transport and ports, and also has been in charge for realizing the skills intelligence developments from the MATES project to identify the skills needs at present and in the future. So you have his all video presentation, but I will give him the floor so we can have more time for exchanges by the end. Thank you, Lefteris.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you, Lucia, for the introduction. Let me just share my screen. I guess you can see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. So in my presentation today, I will provide some facts and figures from the skills strategy for the maritime technologies that we are currently preparing within the framework of the MATES project, as Lucia also mentioned in the beginning. Before we go into that, just to highlight that the shipbuilding sector is actually, the Greek government is actually putting a lot of emphasis on revitalizing the sector in the country, and we as an institute were trying to follow the developments and the advancements that have been undertaken. So to this end, we have recently signed an MOU with key maritime education and training institutes in Greece, and most notably the University of Piraeus and the Exatas Port Training Institute. We also support the Greek Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Insular Policy in developing targeted actions for revitalizing the shipbuilding and repair sector. We also focus on some complementary sectors such as the logistic sector, where we support the Greek Ministry of Labor in devising programs for the upskilling and the reskilling of workers, but also unemployed people. Furthermore, a branch of the institute is being hosted by the Piraeus Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is actually the founder of the Greek Maritime cluster. The aim is to keep an open dialogue and direct communication channel with the industry, and then hear about their needs and try to address them through different programs and actions that we are putting forward. Last but not least, we are also trying to sustain the work that we do in the different projects and the results that we generate. So it was a great pleasure to utilize the results of the previous skillful and EU portraits in the MATE project, which, as Lucia said, is one of the blueprint projects funded by the Erasmus Plus program addressing the maritime technology field. Is a consortium of 17 partners located in 8 countries. The project started its activities in 2018 and will conclude its life cycle at the start of next year. Its main objective is to develop a skill strategy that addresses the main drivers of change to the maritime industry. And besides shipbuilding, we also address the offshore renewable energy sector, since the two sectors are strongly linked and both require new capacities in order to succeed in today's increasingly digital, green, and knowledge-driven economy. This is an outline of the methodology of the project. It follows the plan, do, check, and act cycle. We are currently at the check phase of the cycle, so we are currently preparing the strategy, and we have a critical review, and we receive feedback that we integrate into the strategy. In my presentation today, I will focus more on the plan phase of the cycle, so on the work that we did for the skills intelligence part. We comprised our method comprised of 6 steps for analyzing skills in the sector. We first provided an overview of the sector within the European context. We adopted a value chain approach, and based on that, we identified relevant occupational profiles, for which we did an analysis of both skill supply and skills demand. And this enabled us to show what are the current mismatches and what are the critical gaps and shortages that need to be addressed. We had a blend of activities, desk research mostly for the skill supply part, but also a number of activities where we consulted stakeholders and industry experts in order to get their views and expert opinion on different matters and better shape our approach. With regard to the status update, that was the first step, and focusing on the region, you can see here on the map the productivity levels of the shipbuilding sector in 2019. Of course, Italy holds the biggest share. In these countries that we identified for the region, we saw that there are approximately 25 shipyards employing about 56,000 people, with cruise vessels and yachts accounting for the largest share of relevant activities. Then, focusing on the value chain of shipbuilding, we identified 60 occupational profiles in total, and we used ESCO as the main reference point. Of them, 35, we distinguish them as primary, considering the impact that they have on the value chain. And you can see on the table on the right which are these profiles and the different groups that we devised. Then for the primary occupational profiles, we identified relevant educational training programs that are being offered in the 4 countries. We found 68 of such programs for the 2018-2019 academic year. The majority were actually VET programs specializing on metalworking. Programs of higher education were mostly addressing engineering fields. We found out that only few programs are actually sector-specific. The majority provides broader qualifications that can be applied to different sectors. Very interestingly, we saw that there is a spatial concentration of programs, and an indicative case was the Friuli Venezia Giulia region, which is very logical given the intensity of relevant activities that happen in the region. And also we found out that about a quarter of the programs are provided in English or are bilingual, which actually limits a bit the mobility of students or young professionals interested to attend such programs. Here you can find some more detailed insights for each of the country, but I will not go into detail. You will have the presentation, you can check them. On the skills demand side, we saw that companies actually review the skill training needs of their employees on an annual basis. And some of them actually do this process on a more frequent basis. Engineers and engineering technicians were mostly targeted by this process. And the company stated that there is a need to continuously improve the skills of their staff so that they can shorten the adaptation gap to new market dynamics and the new technologies that are penetrating the sector. And more specifically, they highlighted that the sector is currently in need of skills related to electrification and alternative fuels, which is logical given the targets for decarbonization of shipping, but also additive manufacturing and automation and digitalization were identified as priorities. With regard to employment needs, the company stated that it's quite difficult to find employees with the desired skills and qualifications. Young engineers and blue-collar workers actually lack the practical experience in order to be directly employed in the sector and immediately provide added value. Engineers and managers were in greatest demand. And very interestingly, it was pointed out that there are opportunities to attract skilled personnel from other production sectors, and this is a point that needs to be carefully considered. Here you can find an overview of the gaps and shortages identified for hard skills. You can see that for business management skills and technical skills, we had a number of gaps. And we also had some gaps on the soft skills, which were actually acknowledged as of equal importance to hard skills. And there was a certain prioritization in what soft skills the employees should present. And then this exercise, this analysis allowed us to devise some targeted recommendations for addressing the gaps that we identified. So informal and non-formal education and training methods were actually acknowledged as appropriate for addressing both hard and soft skills. It was suggested that formal education should be combined with on-the-job training so that the labor market can be supplied with ready-to-work young professionals. The accreditation of the programs was a key issue and was highlighted in several of the consultation activities we had with the expert. And it was suggested that such accreditation should be provided by national professional industry associations or governmental bodies. Synergies with other sectors should be created so that it's more easy to identify opportunities for transferring skilled personnel from one sector to another. Shipyards must properly reform their human resource policies and replacement mechanisms so that the knowledge and experience that exists within older workers that are entering the retirement phase can be effectively transferred to the young professionals. And this skill intelligence analysis can also benefit from a bottom-up approach, so going from national to regional level, which may be conducted and repeated at frequent time intervals once this process is standardized, so as to assess the dynamics and the impact of new trends that are impacting the sector on the skills. And based on that, then targeted recommendations can be transmitted to education training providers for reforming their programs and their curricula. You can find more information on the analysis that we did in these links. There is a full version of the report, which is quite lengthy, but you can also visit the executive version, which is quite short, and it grabs all the key information of the analysis. So with that, I would like to thank you very much. I will be happy to answer any questions and also follow up the discussion that will be undertaken in the roundtable.
Thank you very much, Lefteris, and thank you for sticking to the time so precisely, because we are quite a lot of us willing to speak about this subject, and we need the time. I think we propose to frame the session with this presentation because we can provide some figures and some objective facts for our discussion by now, which will give the floor to some of the representatives of the industry and the training providers in this region. So we firstly would like to present Martina Rossi, who is managing skills and training activities at the Maritime Technology Cluster, FVG, in the region of Friuli, Venezia, Giulia. And she is also project manager of the European Project Access, in which he has been developing many of the activities that are also the basis for her comments and insights that she will share with us today. The idea of this first round, presenting all the participants, will be to present their institutions, but also their outcomes and expectations for a skilling strategy in the Adriatic and Ionian region. So Martina, I will give you the floor, and I will kindly request the technical services to shift to Martina Rossi's presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm sharing my screen. You probably see my presentation in full screen in a while. Okay, so just confirm if you can see it properly.
Still not.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet. Okay.
Now we can.
Now it's okay.
Okay, perfect. So I will just give you some short information about us, about the cluster, and then as Lucia anticipated, some results and some expectations. So first of all, the Maritime Technology Cluster of the region Friuli Venezia Giulia is a no-profit consortium. Actually, we hold more or less 80 direct and committed participants, but in reality we deal with many more in the region. The group of companies and actors that we work are very diverse. So we range from private companies, small and big, from the world of research, universities, research centers, and then public authorities, and finally also all the education and training providers. So from professional training up to the universities and so on. Our cluster and our region is mainly, as you probably are already aware of, is much more linked on to traditional maritime sectors, as you can see below in one of the graphs. So shipbuilding and boat building are, I would say, the main activities when we talk about the maritime sector, followed by transport and for sure logistics and other services. Nevertheless, I have to say that in recent years also some emerging sector is coming to some quite good attention from our actors, namely the offshore renewable energies, to one extent, and to another, for example, marine robotics applied on vessels, but also applied on, for example, all the environmental issues. We are basically trying also to collaborate with many other clusters in the area, clusters and institutions in the area. So I'm very glad to be here today with many colleagues, I would say, from the Adriatic and Ionian area. Very quickly, the activities that we do. Training is just one of the branches of the activities of MARFVG. We started basically 5-6 years ago, investing a lot on training and education, I would say initiatives, because we do not provide directly education. We are a cluster, so we try to put together all the competencies that are needed in order to improve the education and training offer. Below you can find some numbers. So the numbers of the targets that we reached over the last years. We involved more than 4,000 students in didactic activities. I have to specify that we are mainly involved in non-formal education activities, okay, because we try to complement the formal education activities. We performed some public conferences with the objective of having a more literate public about the maritime sector and the seas and oceans. We involved more than 200 classes and also university students. Some outcomes. On the left side of the screen, so the 4 boxes on the left are mainly initiatives of a highest level. There are 2 that are called advanced masters, which are specifically for Italy, and are some courses that could be attended by people who already has a bachelor degree or a university master's degree. So it's something specific that we have at Italian level. And they were focused on safety and security at sea, so basically shipbuilding, and the other one in naval and nautical interior design. Then we launched last week 2 summer schools on the topics that are, I would say, on the run today for the shipbuilding sector, ship and boat building, so alternative fuels and hybrid propulsion and digital technologies. But we also try to implement training the trainers initiatives, which was very much interesting, and we try to, I would say, export this method, but we need some kind of support because it's something very specific, and this was dedicated to teachers from high schools. On the right side of the screen, there are basically what we call more non-formal activities, mainly vocational activities that we offer to students from primary to high school. We talk about children from 7 years old up to teenagers of 17, 18 years old. The laboratories of Navigando are mainly organized since 2017. And together, so from that side, we try to organize every year, and we succeed in this. So it's the 4th year that we offer laboratories for students related again to shipbuilding, the design of ROV and SUV, so robotics, and this is basically the general idea. My last slide, before training insights, one last point, which is what you see there on the left. This was an initiative led by our regional government, and very, very interesting, because these initiatives had the idea of putting together all the actors that are involved in training activities in order to design new courses or update the existing ones, but putting together really schools, high schools mainly, universities and industries. Some industries participated directly, some others participated through the clusters, but also all the industrial associations that are in our region were involved. This was pretty much interesting from our point of view, because it was one of the first steps in this direction, and we hope to proceed in this sense. Very quickly, insights. I have put some general considerations just to stress a little bit some points. We need to overcome stereotypes in the maritime, especially related to maritime jobs. Many students and teenagers keep thinking that maritime works are dirty, for example, and are not safe. So we need to change some stereotypes, because many things have changed along the years. The second point, just-in-time training is probably an option, but just-in-time in education is not an option. What I mean that you mentioned that the companies need to the companies, they need to know which are the skills they need, and we have I would say the need of match the labor demand with the supply of skills, but we need to be prepared for the future, and education is not something that we can plan today for tomorrow. The third point, skills, competencies, and jobs need to match. We have more new, I would say, emerging sectors, but also the traditional ones are changing very, very quickly. And there are new skills that are, I would say, needed today. So we have on one side to help young people to understand their way to the job. Last point, we have to cover the whole area of education, from primary schools to long life learning, and involve all the actors along this line. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martina. These insights are very useful for the discussion on the future steps. I would like to give the floor now to our next speaker, Gregory Young. He is the Managing Director of Strategies Maritime Center of Excellence, and he is also Professor of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the American College of Greece. So he can, in some way, give the both views of the training providers and the clusters and industrial representatives for this discussion on the skills needs. Please, you can, Mr. Ivanov, you can share your presentation for your, and we will see it in a moment. I will profit this time just to request you to try to concentrate your presentation and maybe, yes, now we can see it. It's not in the presentation mode.
Now?
Not yet, but we can see the presentation. Okay, now it is.
Okay, so good morning to all, and many thanks for the invitation to participate in this roundtable with such distinguished speakers. So a few words about our activities in our perspective on blue skills and how we can develop a macro-regional strategy for developing blue skills in the region. First of all, Strategies was established in February 2016 with a vision to become a world-class maritime ICT cluster and the technology flagship of the Greek shipping industry in the digital age. And our main purpose is the provision of 21st century services and synergies for growth by conducting R&D in digital shipping, offering strategy consultancy, helping our members in their commercialization efforts of emerging technologies, offering education and training services, and establishing networks of innovation. As part of the broader Piraeus Maritime Cluster and with contributions to the Blue Growth Digital Innovation Hub, which has been established since 2017 in the port city of Piraeus. The core network of Strategies comprises of approximately 35 public and private organizations and agencies with a focus on maritime digitalization. And with the help and in strategic alliances with an extended network of partners all across Europe and beyond, we address all elements of the knowledge economy value chain, starting from the creation, so with the participation of training center, maritime training centers, but also R&D centers, R&D and academic institutions, the communication of new knowledge with our active participation in industrial and scientific fora, and with the capitalization of new knowledge through the extended suite of novel products and services offered by our partners. Now, with respect to blue skills development activities, Strategies currently participates in the MACWAM Erasmus Plus project for nautical and coastal tourism, which is MACWAM stands for International Qualification on Marine and Tourism for the Mediterranean Harbors, and the main outcome of this, the main deliverable of this project is a training program developing the professional profile of manager of integrated services for boating and coastal tourism. Recently, Strategies has also participated in the European Defence Skills Partnership and contributing to a project on defense-related skills, identifying gaps and developing a sector strategy on skills, led by RAND Europe. Our primary focus was on dual-use technologies and their markets. So, in summarizing some outcomes and our reflection on our activity in blue skills development, I would say that we have identified a significant risk of losing traditional shipbuilding skills at the macro regional level due to closure of many large shipyards in our region. Hence, we need to focus on niche markets within the shipbuilding industry, as for example, the short ship shipping, where the region offers a competitive advantage. There is a need for a macro-regional strategy focus to develop skills for sustainable shipping and boating with strong engagement of stakeholders from the government, industry, and academia. And we should point also out that due to the industry fragmentation and lack of standards, these facts hinder knowledge transfer and work and mobility. Thus, we need to foster and stimulate cross-sectoral collaboration to create skill profiles that can be transferable across Europe, across industries. And in that sense, ECVET certified programs enable capital mobility. Finally, in closing, I would mention that we should leverage and adopt existing and future funding mechanisms for funding this strategy. Thank you very much. That concludes my.
Thank you for this so tackled presentation and with some very relevant points to address in this discussion on skills. I will now pass the floor to our next speaker, who also can provide us the double view of the training providers and the representatives of the industry. Mr. Vedran Slapničar is head of the chair of ship design and offshore engineering, and also professor at the Department of Naval Architecture and Offshore Engineering, and vice-president of the Croatian Maritime Industry Competitiveness Cluster, the MARC. You have the complete bio in the presentation that will be then provided, but I will just give him the floor so he can present the slides he has prepared for the event. We still cannot see them. And,
we cannot hear you, Vedran.
We cannot hear you now.
Yeah.
Turn on the mic, Vedran.
Now we can see it. They are not in the presentation mode yet.
All right. So hello everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me, and can you see representation? First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for calling me to participate this valuable and I should say important event. So my name is Vedran Slapničar, and as Lucia said, I have a dual roles. So I coming from the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering and Naval Architecture, and we can say that our faculty is a Croatian leading institution in education, science, and expertise in the fields of mechanical engineering, naval architecture, and for the last 2 decades, the field of aeronautical engineering. So our other role is that I was the first president. Now I'm, let's say, in the either position of the vice president of our cluster, because cluster of Maritime Industry Competitiveness Cluster, we are established in 2013, because we were established with the help of the Ministry of Economy. So that's why the situation of the, sorry, just to close my door. I apologize because it's very hot here, and that's why I have opened the door, but my colleagues are speaking on the corridor. So we don't know what is going to be the future of a cluster, but since we are somewhere in the middle, so still we are existing. So to say something about this let's say topic that we are speaking today, all of us, I'm speaking, I can say, these things that I'm going to tell you for many years, whenever I was able to do it in a public. So, and these are some let's say my thoughts. So we can say that engineering industry, we can say it's considered for a very long time as an outdated image of the spanners and dirty overalls. So also the working as an engineer is generally considered as a low profile job. So we can also see if you just Google it, the whole world, it's a global problem. You have a shortage of engineers, thousands of them. We need it. So it's not just connected with our topic, ship and boat building, it's connected with all other fields of the engineers. So, but at the other thing, we can say that everything around us is engineering. So without engineering, we cannot live, actually. I can see that, I don't know how it's in other countries in Europe, but I see that in Croatia from the beginning, we have taken the hands on from the pupils. When I was young, we were working something from the wood, something for the metal, etc. Today, these children, they just have laptops, they have just smartphones, and practically they are not doing anything with their hands. So also I can say we have also some problem, similar problem with the vocational jobs. Some let's say actions or some initiatives where we were included. It was, let's say, we can see here in 2018, we have organized the skills gap analysis in the Croatian shipbuilding industry. So it's on the trace of this topic. So the challenges and opportunities. Another thing is that we have applied, but unfortunately the project didn't pass. We also worked for the sake of the vocational jobs. There was a program called Harmonization of the Basics for the Dual Vocational Training Curricula in the shipbuilding and metal industry. And the consequence is, we can say that the deindustrialization of the region, there is the ongoing process of reducing and losing industrial production infrastructure and labor force. Maybe most of it was because a lot of industry was relocated to the China and other countries, where the labor force is cheaper, but at the other way that you have a problem with the shortage of the engineers when you want to do something really important. So the strategy of all state entities of the region should be the return and revitalization of the sustainable industrial development. Also, we have participated in an Neorion project. It is closed just a 2 months ago. So it's called promotion of the engineering technologies and new materials to enhance sustainable shipbuilding in Adriatic Ionian region. So the Port of Piraeus and the Brodarski Institute, they have participated in this project. And very nearly, we have a Erasmus Mundus joint master degree program called Sustainable Ship and Shipping SEAS 4.0. So the coordinator is University of Naples, Coruña is a partner, our faculty is a partner, or also Technical University of Hamburg is a partner. It is in the English duration 1.5 years, so the students get 90 ACTS. And it's tailored for the students who already have 240 ACTS in naval architecture and mechanical engineering. So just a second. Okay. So I was doing some, let's say, research a few years ago, and I found some position paper of the Engineering Society for Engineering Education, and I can say that this is still valid. That's why I put it here. So they say that engineering, and it's something on the trace that I said on the first slide, is about creating products processing and systems in response to the obstacles and demands, or in pursuit of new ideas and opportunities. And I put it in the red letters. So just I wanted to stress how the engineering is really important. So engineering is not something that takes place behind closed curtains, since the work of the engineer is visible in almost every aspect of the society and industry. That's why I said it's all around us. So also they said, what are the priorities of the engineering graduates? So the priorities are that they have to adapt to the changes, because every day we have changes. So we must have sort of the engineering curricula that the engineers should be able to adapt to these changes. But certainly the most important thing is to make them the way of the thinking, how to adapt to changes, because we know that it's not possible to change the curricula so fast, and that also to follow everything that is going on. But if you have an engineer who is thinking a person, that he can be able to adapt to the changes. Another thing that is connected to this one is education that must be broadened, the engineer. Another thing is that higher education engineering institutions should embrace diversity. Then what is important, it's the mobility and engineering program comparability. So I have to applaud for this Erasmus and Erasmus Plus programs because they are very, very important. So to have this diversity and to see what others are doing. So how our academic staff are equally evolving and supported as educators. And the one thing before the last one is learning for the life. So I put it L3, it's a lifelong learning. And one of the things that I want to stress here, and I'm during my whole working life, I'm stressing this, that is also very, very important. It's a relation and exchange of know-how between industry and academia. So the last slide is something that I have done. This is for, I have just translated a few days ago, but it was worked in Croatian. I didn't call it the blue economy or something. I call it in that time, this is more than 10 years old, Maritime complex. So we can see what are the components of the shipbuilding. Also, we can add because if you see the medium and small shipyards, it is also connected to the boat building. What is the most important? What are the most important activities on the Adriatic? What are the promising products of the modern shipbuilding? And the last is the elements of the development. So I think this table is giving a very good overview what is important for us and what we should do for our future. So as a conclusion, I can say that maintaining industry as the sole driver of all activities in the country, and not only the existence of the industry only in the existence of the industry can preserve the core of the knowledge and potential of the new technological advances and enable active market activity. Just to refresh your memory, if you know that Airbus company, they started because they wanted to have this core knowledge in the Europe. You had in that time the very developed air company, the Boeing, but that is how that is what was behind idea of the creation of the Airbus. So I think we have to focus ourselves and try to give the industry more dignity and decency. Okay, thanks a lot. And if you have some questions, we can discuss it later on.
Thank you, Mr. Zlatničar, for this presentation with a lot of information in it, indeed, to review afterwards with some more time to have all the details. I would like to continue with our next speaker, Mr. Nicola Monchilovic, who has been working for a long time as assistant professor at Department of Naval Architecture in the University of Belgrade, but is also a visiting professor at the Maritime Faculty Kotor in the University of Montenegro. So Mr. Monchilovic can provide us his view as a training provider in different contexts in the region. Please, I give you the floor. You can share your presentation with us
Okay, just a second, please. I think. Can you see it?
We are starting
Yeah?
to see it.
Okay.
You can see it now.
Okay. Hi. I met some of you on our preparatory meeting in Monday. So for the rest of you, my name is Nicola Monchilovic, and I'm working as an assistant professor at the Department of Naval Architecture at the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Belgrade, where I teach courses like ship design and ship structural design and similar courses. Also, I'm a visiting professor, as you said, at the University of Montenegro at the Maritime Faculty Kotor, where I teach the similar courses that are related to primarily to the ship basic theory or ship design. So first of all, let me say something about these institutions. These are educational and research institutions. Maybe the primary institution is in these two countries, Serbia and Montenegro, that are related to the naval architecture and shipbuilding. Of course, my teachings are related to the ship design, ship structural design, and ship theory. But in these, regarding all this environmental issue, I have integrated these topics such as IMO goals, energy efficiency, ship emissions, MARPOL conventions to my teachings. So these teachings are internationally regulated. So of course, one of the main issue that I'm incorporating and teaching is this IMO goal for the decarbonizations for at least going with a reduction of 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions until 1250. So that's one of the issues that are more and more going into the teachings. Also, as far as Maritime Faculty Kotor, this institution is involved within Erasmus project that has an introduction of the blue economy context into the several courses within the education. Since first, I'm glad that you invited me. I was also invited by the University of Montenegro to represent them on this meeting. And to talk something about the case of Montenegro, I would say the current state with regard of shipbuilding and boat building. And as I already said in Monday, we had 2 shipyards that are dismissed. So now we don't have any shipyards, large shipyards in the classical sense. Only the thing that we have are boat repair yards and a large amount of boat and yacht marinas. Also, the cruiser ship sector exploded, and boat yacht fleet exploded significantly in the past, let's say, 10 to 15 years. And it is very important because it exploded, especially in the areas of high natural cultural significance, where environmental protection is of importance. Regarding that, the government of Montenegro published a national maritime strategy that addressed the blue economy, but in more, I think, general form. I think it has to go from top to bottom more profoundly. So we are facing now, I think, some problems, mainly regarding the cruise ships that increased, as I said, significantly because of the pollutions from these ships. And I will remind you that Montenegro is also a member state of the IMO, so it had to follow these goals of the IMO ambitions. But I think the problem is that it still cannot be controlled easily. It's not so mandatory as maybe some other things. Regarding the boat building, I said that this boat building sector increased, and the problem is, as I see, more or less related to the waste of these boats and fiberglass materials after the production. So where I see the application or the benefit here is the use of renewable energy. So there are prototype efforts of building smaller passenger ships that use solar panel technology. especially in a cutter boat area. But these are, I would say, prototype or pioneer efforts. I think these efforts have to be increased more. So in that regard, these skills went from, in Montenegro, especially from the classical engineering towards more or less tourism oriented. So, and when we speak about education and industry, I think that we have a need overall to produce more high-skilled engineers, because they lost somewhere within this gap, within this transition from going from classical engineering to this tourism-oriented skills. So because these high-skilled engineers can cope with these emerging innovations, regulation, renewable technologies. So I think here the basic question is somewhat a global question that we are facing here. Why will shipping industry take care about the blue economy if they are not obliged? I mean, it is some kind of, they have obligations, some kind of obligation, IMO obligation. We have, if we, I think that this IMO strategy is very good strategy, because it can direct the countries of our region to pursue developing innovative technologies. In that regard, I think that skills that are needed in this, let's say, somebody said earlier this morning, in this revolution, I think industry revolution that we are facing here, is to survey, let's say, from the practical standpoint, we need engineers to survey and monitor emissions or pollutants going from ships. Are they addressing these IMO goals? We need the skills that can. We need staff that can do an application of respecting international regulation on ships and boats, boat building, waste management, for instance. And I think, and I bold this because the topic here is boat building and ship building with respect to the blue economy, and we need skills for the engineers to build, repair ships, which is especially in Montenegro, and boats considering the environmental impact. And how we can do that, I think we have to pursue developing skilled naval architects, mechanical marine engineers, but updated with the new renewable technologies, alternative fuel applications, and such novel technologies. So, because you said I have only 2 slides for the for the main thing, I did it in that way. So that with this I can finish my presentation.
Thank you very much, and I am sorry for stressing you with the lack of time, but the idea is to have some minutes for an exchange after this first round, presenting all of you, and we are always running out of time because we like to speak, and this is good indeed, but I will pass the floor to our last but not least speaker, Mr. David Scaradozzi. He is assistant professor at the Università Politecnica dell'Arte in Italy, and also a scientific board member of the University Center of Integrated Systems for the Maritime Environment. And he's also here representing UniAdrion, associations of universities of the Adriatic and Ionian Sea. I will pass him the floor so he can share with us his presentation. And with this, we will finalize this first round of presenting all the speakers and framing all the interests that have been discussed. We can see it perfectly.
Sì, grazie. Buongiorno a tutti, ringrazio innanzitutto la Regione Friuli Venezia Giulia per aver organizzato questa interessantissima giornata, soprattutto questa tavola rotonda, e anche la Regione Marche per averci coinvolto. Io sì, sono qui in rappresentanza di UniAdrion. UniAdrion è un consorzio sulla macroregione adriatico-ionica e Uniadion al momento conta già università in 8 paesi, 39 università, ed in particolare ha sempre creduto fin dall'inizio che se anche il mare sembra separare, in realtà se utilizziamo bene il mare possiamo creare dei rapidi canali per arricchirci e contaminarci. Infatti oggi Uniadion conta circa 750.000 studenti in contaminazione con le culture dei paesi che si affacciano sui nostri mari e uno scambio continuo di circa 49.000 persone di staff tra docenti, personale tecnico amministrativo. Uniadion ha diversi tavoli tematici, tra i principali Blue Grow, connettere la regione, occuparsi della qualità ambientale, di un turismo sostenibile, le innovazioni della società e in più di un'analisi innovativa accurata delle eventuali policy e dell'economia. L'Università Politecnica delle Marche, di cui faccio parte attualmente, detiene anche la segreteria di Uniadion. Io porto in questo tavolo le mie competenze da ingegnere, e infatti sono anche membro scientifico di ISME. Ancona è un nodo fondatore di ISME. ISME è formato dalle maggiori università italiane che si occupano dell'ambiente marino, in particolare dalle facoltà di ingegneria. Questo lo dico perché la mia visione su questo tavolo è quella di un ingegnere in informatica e dell'automazione. Le nostre competenze sono nella documentazione real time, nell'intelligenza artificiale, il controllo e l'ottimizzazione, la localizzazione, la comunicazione, l'innovazione nell'energia, ma soprattutto nel creare nuova capacità fin dalla primaria, fin dalla scuola primaria, sulla robotica e sulla conoscenza del mare e dell'ambiente marino a tutto tondo. Nell'affrontare la giornata di oggi mi sono chiesto e sono andato a investigare sulle nostre competenze su che cosa ci sta chiedendo il Green Deal, in particolare dove le università sono chiamate a portare ricerca e innovazione. Penso che la risposta principale sia che nel prossimo futuro noi avremo dei modelli digitali molto dettagliati e aggiornati in tempo reale di cosa sta navigando e operare nei nostri oceani. Quindi significa che come università, come centri di ricerca, il nostro focus principale dovrà essere quello di creare nuove capacità sul monitoraggio marino, sul modellare il sistema marino, sull'andare a capire come stiamo intervenendo nel nostro sistema marino con anche le grandi o le piccole navi. Più volte in precedenza, nei precedenti interventi, si è parlato di quali siano le innovazioni da portare a livello di formazione. Secondo me dobbiamo lavorare su diversi livelli, perché dobbiamo andare a introdurre nuova formazione a seconda di chi sarà l'operatore in questo mondo. Immagino che dovremmo, dal mio punto di vista, lavorare sia sul livello dei progettisti, introducendo nuove competenze sull'intelligenza artificiale, i sistemi cyberfisici, conoscere meglio l'ottimizzazione sfruttando l'innovazione digitale. Soprattutto dovremmo portare nuove competenze sulla prototipizzazione rapida, le nuove stampanti 3D, e inoltre nella progettazione dovremmo portare anche nuova cultura su come introdurre gli aspetti etici direttamente nel momento della progettazione. Poi però non dobbiamo dimenticarci che dobbiamo anche cambiare gli operatori, cioè quelli che tutti i giorni lavorano nei nostri porti, nelle nostre navi e comunque nell'ambiente marino. Dovranno essere capaci di sfruttare un training con intelligenze artificiali, dovranno essere capaci di interagire con simulatori di alto livello che hanno non soltanto l'aspetto pratico, ma anche un mondo virtuale in realtà aumentata, e in più dovranno saper interagire con scenari di gaming, serious gaming, questo per prepararli anche ad affrontare meglio situazioni critiche. Poi dobbiamo parlare anche della manutenzione, cioè dobbiamo anche cambiare i nostri tecnici e i nostri ingegneri che andranno a fare manutenzione di queste navi e di questi nuovi veicoli. E qui dobbiamo introdurre ulteriori capacità dal mio punto di vista, cioè un modo nuovo di saper fare fault detection, di andare a valutare delle propulsioni innovative, soprattutto quando i veicoli stanno lavorando, andare a fare un improving continuo dell'efficienza dei veicoli grazie al fatto che ormai siamo in un mondo connesso e quindi anche le nostre navi trasmettono tantissime informazioni al loro modello digitale, e in più dovremmo anche andare a introdurre capacità su come misurare l'efficienza verde o blu o comunque l'efficienza nella tutela dell'ambiente durante tutto il periodo di vita dei nostri veicoli che operano sul mare. Questa è un po' una slide che mi sento di portare su questo tavolo di discussione basata un po' sulle nostre competenze. Rimango poi a disposizione perché immagino che adesso ci sia un giro di domande interessanti su che cosa fattivamente possiamo fare come università e come centri di ricerca.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scaradozzi, for keeping in the times. And as we dedicate a little bit more to make a long presentation of your main outcomes and insights, I would like to make a very rapid round with all of you, starting the first presenter, requesting you to answer in a very short sentence after all this debate, first preparation debate and your presentation, which actions would you consider that would facilitate the alignment of the industry needs in terms of future skills and the offer by providers? Please just answer from your point of view in each case with either some words, either a very short sentence, so we can have all of you sharing a very prioritized idea from your point of view. I will request Ms. Martina Rossi to start the round. We follow the same order. Please, Martina.
Okay, so very briefly, my first point to answer your question. So which actions? The first one, I would say, make permanent the link between industry and all the education providers, no matter the level. So
just keep it here so you can give some time for the rest. And okay. We take this one as one of the very important actions to retain. Now I will request Miss. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Jovanov to present his sentence.
Okay. Close collaboration between industry and academic institutions at all levels, that is from the technology transfer to the curriculum design and the training of new students, of young students. That's.
Thank you very much for this sentence. And from the side of the training providers, Mr. Monchilovic.
Okay, I would also say, like Gregory, to close ties between academia and industry. And since my point of view is academia, because I work there, I would say incorporating blue economy issues and outcomes within your own teachings. That's the first step. I mean, from my point of view. Okay.
Excuse me, because I skipped Mr. Slapnichar that was before in the rounds. Please let us know your sentence now.
Okay. As I said, all of our let's say participants, they said that the relationship between industry and education institutions is important. But we have to work with them to, in my experience, usually the industry, they see this relation as a cost of the money and time. So we must find some way how this could be very smooth. So because we can learn from the industry and industry can learn from us. Because usually I know that especially in the space industry, it's not just the big companies. We are speaking here about boat building companies. So usually they just focused on their everyday job. They don't have any time to do anything else, to follow the rules, to follow anything. So this is the space where we can intervene and help them. But another thing, since we are speaking about the skills here and reskills, but from the beginning, we have to give the pupils possibility to work with their hands. I think it's very important, and that should be, let's say, done on the global, global or European now here, the strategy. So give them opportunity to, because I don't know, of 100% students, pupils, maybe half of them, or maybe more of the half, I don't know these percentages now, but they like to do something with their hands. But when we take them from this point of view from the beginning, then we will have a huge problem afterwards. So this is my point. Work on the pupils and work with the industry.
Okay, you are a dual observer of the situation, so it's normal to give different conclusions to tackle the situation. And Mr. Scaradozzi, could you provide us your gold sentence for approaching the industry?
Sì, posso portare un esempio della nostra regione, dove abbiamo anche gli istituti superiori che hanno dei laboratori condivisi con noi dell'università e con il tessuto industriale. Secondo me la soluzione potrebbe essere anche questo, cioè fare dei centri di ricerca condivisi tra l'industria e l'accademia, dove si vanno a confrontare studenti che lavorano sporcandosi le mani, come diceva il collega, e contribuiscono con le loro competenze, se sono di scuola superiore, di scuola primaria, perché no, oppure se sono dei ricercatori o dei dottorandi, e ci sono le aziende che portano i loro progetti, perché condivido appieno, l'azienda è concentrata nel prodotto di breve periodo, ma allo stesso tempo ha delle necessità di lungo periodo su cui è interessante si confrontino ad esempio i ricercatori. Quindi potrebbe essere un'idea quella di creare degli spazi condivisi dove le nuove skill vanno ad essere create o comunque allenate.
Thank you much for this particular form to create these spaces for contribution. For my next questions, before giving the floor to the audience that will be soon invited to present any question from their side in the chat, but just before, I would like to raise two questions, and as we are quite a lot, I will address them to some of you. And then you can have the opportunity to make any comment if required. But I would like to address to Martina Rossi one of the questions, because she has presented in several moments the importance of promoting the understanding of the ocean's influence on you and your influence in the ocean, which is the definition of ocean literacy. And that this could be a way to promote a more sustainable maritime activity and inspire the youth in a blue career. So I will like to request her, which are the actions that you consider that could be promoted in the area to increase this ocean literacy?
As I link to our experience with the laboratories in the framework of Navigando that I mentioned at the beginning. And I also link to the comment made by Vedran Slapničar in terms of fascinating pupils. So inviting them, being hands-on, the things that they would like to do. Our experience with those laboratories was, I would say, great. We have many requests from schools every year. that ask us to start again those laboratories, because they feel that they are very, very useful for the students. Because now that everything is digital, allowing students to do something with their hands, it's something that is sometimes new for them. From my point of view, the point is that we have this experience only in our region. We are dealing with teenagers and also pupils and children. So we have to speak in our language. We cannot perform something in English. This is not, I would say, the best option. So one of the potential action, and from my point of view would be beautiful, could be to have the same laboratories that we have in our region replicated in the other countries along the Adriatic in their own languages. So basically, we can train ourselves because we can share the things in English, but then we need professionals to translate those things in local language and then teach and make the activities to teenagers and children.
Oh, thank you for this very inspiring proposal to continue working on. And if I would like to raise a final question to address the present situation in the area. We saw in the last years that COVID-19 has changed the landscape of many activities, including the maritime one. And this is occurring at least for a period of time in which we all have adapted our habits. But the impact has been different depending the subsectors as leisure, transport, offshore activities. And with all this situation, new expectations are arising for the post-COVID-19 recovery, not only in terms of activity, but also in terms of how do we teach and how do we continue. And I would like to address this question to Mr. Jovanov, because, but you can also then present your points of view on how do you consider that a capacitation strategy could contribute to promote a more sustainable maritime sector, the Adriatic and Ionian region, considering all these changes and opportunities that have arisen from this situation?
So, with respect to COVID, how we cope with, it wasn't clear to me, were two different questions, or how we adjust our teaching to the post-COVID situation?
Indeed, the idea is considering the situation and all this new landscape and changes, how could a skilling strategy could be an opportunity to profit from the situation we had to live in terms of COVID?
Yeah, I believe COVID has forced us to accelerate the digital transformation in many sectors, in many fields, and throughout our daily lives. So platforms of collaboration are now very much in operation throughout the world, and that gives us the opportunity to collaborate more freely, more easily across the world with other partners, so that we can transfer this. And we've seen also this model applied to the academic realm as well. So our teaching has adapted, our teaching style has adapted to the situation. Of course, it's not the ideal online education has some shortcomings. We have to figure out ways to improve the way we deliver education over these online platforms, and take advantage of this extensive collaborative mentality that people have developed recently, to come up with ways of cooperation at a larger scale, regional or global scale. So that will give us the opportunity to accelerate innovation and creativity and innovation and entrepreneurship, I believe.
Thank you for this first comment, and excuse me for not being clear with the question. Yeah. We have some time to invite the attendees to propose any question. If you would like to make any question, please just announce in the chat that you would like to request something to the speakers. Otherwise, while the people decide if they would like to ask a question or not, I can give the floor to the speakers if they want to make any comment to any of these last questions that I have just posed about the ocean literacy, and how can we profit from this post-COVID situation to using the skilling strategy, take advantage of the situation. Mr. Scaradozzi, in your previous meeting, made some considerations on the advancements on digitalization arise from this. And also Mr. Slapnichar also made some consideration about the need to keep also the in-presence activities. We don't have
velocemente,
any person from the
aspettiamo gli spunti delle persone che sono collegate. Io penso che il Covid ha dato una maggiore possibilità di interazione tra i docenti e i discenti, perché le nuove generazioni conoscevano molte tecnologie, però durante il periodo della pandemia si è creata una maggiore connessione tra chi insegnava e chi utilizzava le tecnologie per apprendere. Dobbiamo trovare il modo di inserire tutto questo nella vecchia modalità di insegnamento, perché, come appunto diceva il collega, poi i nostri operatori devono andare non soltanto nel mondo cyber, ma soprattutto in quello fisico. Quindi dovremmo introdurre anche nuove modalità di insegnamento post-Covid che prendano il meglio della situazione prima e della situazione durante. Quindi penso che questa sia una delle maggiori sfide di noi accademici in questo senso.
Mr. Slapnichar, would you like to make any comments on this regard? We still didn't receive any participant comments to pose any question. Yes.
My opinion about this, let's say, gain from the COVID is that at least we can say we have developed some let's say knowledge about using the tools and how to do some distance learning or online learning. But as I said on the Monday, I have a feeling, and my students told me that they are really they want to be here, they want to socialize. So I think the benefit is that we have learned something, we have learned how to do it, we have now slides, etc. But I think that it should not be let's say used in a negative way. So because I know that some faculties in Croatia still okay, let's say that on my faculty we have live lectures and exercises these last months. We just didn't have in the beginning, but I know that some faculties, they still have online, and the students there, they're really frustrated because, you know, you're just sitting home and doing practically, it's not the thing that somebody who is young and wants to be with others and share knowledge. I think sharing the knowledge is very difficult online. Just to say my example, when we started with online lectures, I didn't want to be in my room like I'm here. I went to the lecture room. I had a camera there, and I was lecturing from the lecture room. So they at least had the impression that they are looking the professor, not they are looking somebody in the room. So I think that, as I said, it's a good thing that we have learned about it, but we must not take it in the negative way. And another thing that I would like to just add, I forgot it, and Martina just remind me, as it was not organized for the, let's say, the pupils, but for the students. We had organized, or my faculty, I was one of the organizer, the summer schools of naval architecture of the small crafts, where it's actually boat building. It was organized as a small shipyard where the students for the different faculties, so designers, architects, but also, of course, naval architects and mechanical engineers, they were there for 5 days learning about small ships, because on the faculty we don't learn so much about the small ships, and especially these other students, they don't know anything about the small ships. But we thought it's a good way to, let's say, mingling with the professors and the students. During the day they were learning, then they go out and, you know, at the cafes, etc. But we had a very nice school. It was a summer school, so I think also this is something that could help to promotion of the engineering in the future.
Thank you very much. We still didn't receive any questions, so I would propose you to profit these 5 last minutes before joining the plenary session, just to recap on some of the conclusions that we could extract from this session. And I will I will try to be very targeted. But on first priority, I could show that there is a willingness to promote and sustain the quadruple helix in the fields of the marine technologies to advance in innovation, business development, and business adaptation, but also in creating skills for this purpose. And this will require a shift in the culture for all groups, so they can build together a strategy instead of requesting contributions only when there is an urgency. And there is a need to set up mechanisms capable of taking on the task of creating these long-term collaborations, funding mechanisms, but not only, also recognition of the efforts dedicated and as I started saying, a change of culture. And there are opportunities to align the use of existing funds in order to optimize the investments in the region. As you all showed, different experiences that were already developed. Some of the specific needs that you have been identifying. Well, there is a real need to invest in engineering education at all levels, including the lower ones, and even attracting students from secondary schools to promote the STEAM and inspire the youth in a blue career. But also to promote the up and reskilling and the uptake of new technologies for those that are already in the sector. It's also, you have also pointed the need to promote a greener boating and yachting industry, from the design and the adaptation of vessels, but also to the services provided in the marinas. Also, the need to integrate the digital revolution in the sector. In order to be effective, the digitalization should involve all levels, and this will require a skilling effort when addressing the more traditional and small enterprises. But it also provides opportunities to design green and more efficient boats. And last but not least, you also pointed the importance to combine this digital revolution with the hands-on work and the work-based learning, which are sometimes forgiven when we start speaking about digital, but which are the basis to get the people working in the sector. Some of you also indicated the importance to stimulate the transversal skills to smooth the pathway towards the sector changing needs. Mobilities can support this, together with also the new methodologies for training and this work-based learning also. You notice the importance to combine this online and in-presence training. And finally, we could conclude that we are in the Adriatic and Ionian region. We are at present facing a turning point for the ship and boat building industry, and there is an opportunity to focus on strengthening this short shipping and invest to build and repair smaller ships in the region. And for this, a skilling strategy will be very beneficial. So these are the conclusions from my notes, but please let me know if you would like to insert something else. Otherwise, we can go to the plenary room. We have to go ourselves by using the link. Yes, please.
Just emphasize also the cross-cutting effort for developing skills across various industries. That is the problems that we are facing with skills shortages or skill gaps in the blue economy are faced in smart manufacturing, in aeronautics, transportation, and other areas. So we can develop skills across which are transferable across different sectors. That will save us effort and will allow us tapping into a larger pool of talent for making the transition to the digital era.
We could say, please correct me, to improve cross-cutting efforts to address transferable skills that are cross-sectoral, relevant to several sectors.
Yeah.
And in this regard, are you considering all cross-sectors, like when we talk about digitalization, or the maritime ones? Because with the structure of the industrial ecosystems, the maritime subsectors are split in different industrial ecosystems.
But some, at least some of the technologies are horizontal. Let's say additive manufacturing has applications in different domains. So if we develop skills for additive manufacturing, if that is for the shipping industry or the transportation, it's the same. That is, that's the concept. That is, let's work, since there is a shortage of talented people who are capable of working with these new technologies. Let's try to share resources with other sectors, and not to duplicate efforts and develop skills independently from each other. That's my point.
I keep this point. And now we are running out of time. Excuse me. I will kindly request you to come again to the plenary session, in which we will present these conclusions and have included this one as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.